Hey, what's up guys? I'm Sal. Thanks for checking out the video. Today I installed a backup camera on my first gen Tundra. The install went really smooth and I documented every step of the way for you guys. Also, the camera that I picked out has one key trick up its sleeve to make the install a lot simpler. Let's get into it. Okay, so I went with the Nautica backup camera that I bought on Amazon for $40. It had really good reviews and I think it's going to work perfectly for my application. It comes with a user's manual, it comes with some tools which is convenient, some zip ties, a panel puller. It's got this like sealing tape, some butt connectors. It also has these spacers which is kind of cool. You can see it's at an angle, so if you're mounting this on a flat surface and you want just a little bit of pitch to get your picture better, then you can use those, which I think is really cool. The camera itself has some heft to it. It looks really nice, and I think it's going to blend in really well with where I'm planning to put it. This, of course, is the rest of the wiring that sends the video signal from the back of the truck up to the head unit. What's unique about this wiring is it simplifies finding the trigger wire immensely. I haven't seen many other rear view cameras that provide this, and I thought it was really cool. So this is the part that is in the back of the truck. This connects here to the camera, and then this runs forward to the head unit. And you can see this bundle of wires here. This is the power and ground for the camera, but what's unique is it also sends this power up to where it connects to the head unit, and it also acts as the trigger wire. So I think that's super cool, and like I said, it really simplifies finding that trigger, because otherwise you're digging in the dash, going through the mess of like chassis wiring, trying to figure out, oh, is the red with the blue stripe, red with the black stripe? It's just all provided here, and the only wire you have to find is the reverse wire in your tail light, which should be much simpler than digging through chassis wiring. Okay, so moving to the back of the truck here, they didn't design these first gen Tundras with accommodations for a backup camera. So there's not really a great spot to mount it. I was running through a few ideas. I thought maybe under here, but there's not really a great spot to mount it. I thought maybe up here on top, right in the middle, but that's ugly, and it's also a step, so you don't really want this camera right in the middle. I thought maybe under here, but I think the tailgate would crush it, and it's also set really far back, so I don't know that you could see a whole lot. So what most people do, and what I'm going to do, is mount it up under here in the tailgate handle itself, and I think it looks really OEM plus. It blends right in. The black color like matches perfectly, and I think it'll also give a good sight picture looking back. So before we get into drilling holes and cutting it up too much, what I want to do is run the wires first and make sure that the camera actually works, the trigger works with the head unit, and then we'll get to fully installing it. Okay, so the first step is going to be figuring out what wire is our reverse wire back here. So pop off the taillight. It's just two 10mm bolts. Okay, then we can just pull the taillight out, and reverse lights on the bottom. So we got the red and the blue, which is the power, and then the black and the white is the ground. So we'll be tapping into this red and blue one here. So I mentioned earlier that the kit comes with all these connectors, but none of them are very useful. They're not like round, so you can't use it as a chassis ground, and they're also not a splicing connector, so you can't tap into old wiring. So I recommend using one of these. It's just a splice connector, so the old wire goes here, and then you put the new one in here, and when you clamp it down, it connects them up. So we'll be clamping this onto that red and blue wire there. If I feel like the cover's not cutting it, I'll use some pliers like this, just to make sure we got a good connection. There we go. And then I was planning on running this to a chassis ground, but I'm just going to splice it into the ground wire right here. I might as well. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, I want to run all the wiring outside the truck before I verify that this is working well with the head unit, everything's jiving. Okay, so I got the wire up here with me in the cab. I just ran it down on the grass, and we can start taking off this bezel so we can get to the back of the head unit. Start by pulling the 3 knobs off and tilting the vents up. We got 3 screws here. I'm missing the middle one, and then there's 2 screws hidden up here behind the vents. Once all the screws are out, you can just kind of pull this big panel off. Just being gentle with it. It's old plastic. And the whole thing pulls away like this. And then we can get access to our head unit. For mine, it just takes a 10 mil on these 4 bolts on the outside. Pull the head unit right out. Okay, so next you want to look at the wiring harness that's provided with your head unit, and hopefully it's labeled as nicely as mine is from a Toto with these little tabs on each individual wire, but otherwise the manual will tell you what wire does what. Here we can clearly see that the rear camera wire is this pink one, and that'll be our trigger wire that we're connecting to the red one coming from the back of the truck. As far as the video input, I have this array of inputs and outputs here, and we can see that RC in will be the rear camera in. So that's where this will plug in, and then we'll splice this into the pink wire. So it's all connected up, and now if we power the truck on, it should work. Nice. Love that. Okay, so I guess I didn't fully think this through, but you can unplug this one, but now this is stuck in here. So we are going to end up cutting these wires, and we'll just splice it a little bit further up. There's tons of meat left on both of them, so I'm not too worried about it. So now we'll route this wire forward more permanently. We'll just go in through the hole for the taillight here. Okay, then looking from underneath, the wire comes down, and I'm just going to run it with these wires up and on top of the frame rail here, just up forward, staying right above the frame rail. Moving up from the rear wheel well, you just kind of follow the top of the frame, again just mirroring those the existing wires. And once we get up here, this is the grommet that we're going to be passing the wiring through. You can see it just comes out right in the driver's footwell, so we'll be taking off this trim here and then peeling back the carpet. Okay, so this trim comes off with 4 screws, and then the carpet pops up with just these 2 poppers. You push the top in and it pulls right up, one there and one there. If you can squeeze the carpet out from under this guy, then you can get good access to the grommet, which is right there, right here. I didn't want to take off all this. It'd be easy enough to do, but you can definitely do it without it. Once you've got all that off, you can pass the wire through the grommet and pull it out the other end. So now we're on the home stretch. We're just going to run this up under here and into the dash. This panel just has one nut in the back here, and then it can just pull right out. Okay, so I got the wire coming out here, running along this guy. I have it zip tied here so that it doesn't like pull over. It just stays here, cuts across, and then pulls up there by the HVAC. Then you just got to kind of work blind, trying to pass it hand to hand behind here, up and through, and then we got our wire. Okay, so now that we got it routed behind, we can repeat the process where we're plugging it in, and we can splice this guy in as well. And now we can just reassemble everything. At the end there, this one was super loose, and I couldn't figure out why. And it's got this little metal retainer that sits in here, and it fell out. Thankfully, I saw it fall out, but I didn't really think anything of it. But yeah, this little metal retainer sits on the end here, and it was super loose without it, so just something to note, I guess. Okay, so now that we have a majority of the wires run, we can focus on mounting the camera to the handle itself. Now the handle mounts and all like the latch release mechanism is behind this panel. It's nice that they give us a panel, and we just take off all the bolts with a T30 Torx bit. Okay, so this is what the back side of the trunk latch looks like, and honestly I was planning on taking it out to drill this, but there's tons of clearance here, and you can very clearly see where the drill bit's going to pass through and where we'll run the wire through. So I think I'm just going to leave it in the truck. So we'll play around with the location a little bit. I'd like it offset to the left so that you still have room to put your hand. So I'm thinking if it's over here, there's still plenty of room for your hand, and I'm probably just going to try and go up as high as I can, because there's tons of clearance on the back side. If anything, I'm probably going to want to end up spacing it out a little bit. Easy as that. Moment of truth. Nice. Okay, awesome. So that's what it looks like in there. It's honestly, it's as far over as it could go before it starts curving out this way, like this. So I would like for it to be over more, but that's really as far as it goes before you're gonna end up with like a big gap. On the back side, you can see that the hole isn't in the way of anything. You can pass it right through, no problems at all. Okay, next I wanna see what the picture looks like without any spacers and see if we need to add any. So I tighten the nut down and we'll go see what it looks like. Okay, so throw in reverse and we're upside down. So I gotta cut one of the wires, but other than that, we can also see that we're seeing a lot of that handle there. So that's all handle. So we gotta try and space it out a little bit to just see more of the ground. Okay, so in the instructions, it talks about which of these little loops you need to cut depending on how you're mounting it. So for us, we're mounting it horizontally, and we're gonna cut the purple one. That'll probably flip the picture. And then if we wanna get rid of the distance guidelines, we'll cut the green one, but I'm not sure if I wanna do that yet. So these are the 3 loops here. They're just after the connection from the rest of the harness to the camera wire. So yeah, let's cut the purple one. Okay, so you can see that I added some spacers here. They only come with holes on the top side, so like it's meant to sit like this, but I didn't want it to be at more of an angle. I just wanted to extend it out. So what I did was I actually just flipped this back one upside down and drilled a hole the same size using the same drill bit. And hopefully this will just space it out without giving us any extra pitch. Okay, so here goes after cutting that purple wire and adding the spacers. Oh boy. I never plugged it back into the rest of the harness. Okay, take 2. Nice. Okay, so it's still catching a lot of the handle, but it looks a lot better. It's right side up, that's good. Okay, so after a little bit of trial and error, this is what I ended up with. Let's go inside and see what it looks like. Okay, so this is the picture that we're seeing with those 3 spacers. I think this is really good. I'm really happy with that. Okay, cool. I'm really liking the look of that. You wouldn't even know it's there if you weren't looking for it. So yeah, it tucks right away. It doesn't touch the handle at all, but it's spaced out enough where you're just seeing the tip of this. So man, that's pretty good. Okay, so now we have to route this wire to the brake light through here somewhere. So I'm thinking we tuck it under here. We got these holes at the bottom. We can just come out one of these holes and then through that hole in the bottom of the bed. I played around with it a little bit and it doesn't look like anything will pinch, especially if we have it tight enough and zip tied in the right spots. Okay, one thing I was not expecting was there to be this bracing in between, so it's kind of hard to pass it through. That's why I use the coat hanger. Okay, so one last walkthrough of the wiring up here. Comes out past it under here with the metal coat hanger. Comes out this hole here through the rectangular one. And I actually added some duct tape here so that it's just not rubbing on or riding on the metal edge. There's at least a little bit of a buffer there. Now heading underneath, it comes out through the rectangular hole, runs up along here, again on top of this frame rail, and then I just have all the wires zip tied right up here. It's actually all very secure, and I'm confident that everything's connected properly and it's not going anywhere. So I think I still need to play around with the camera a little bit more and definitely cut the other wire to get rid of the distance guidelines, but here's a quick comparison of what the camera is seeing to real life. It's important to have a bit of the handle in the frame as a reference point for the truck, and I'd say it's pretty accurate. I'm confident that when the object starts to disappear under the handle, I'm getting right up there next to my bumper. But picture quality is maybe a 5 out of 10, and in my case those distance guidelines are completely useless, but I'm still very satisfied with my purchase. Okay, cool. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. I think the install went really smoothly. Usually I don't finish car projects where it's still daylight out, so that's saying something, but yeah, no, I'm really happy with it. Picture quality is not perfect, but for 40 bucks, I don't think you can go wrong, and it does what I need it to do. How close am I to the car behind me, right? So yeah, I'm really happy. I'll have a review coming out shortly after I live with it for a little bit. But yeah, other than that, if you have any questions, make sure you ask them in the comments. But thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and have a great rest of your day.